Hi guys, and welcome to Pickles and Vodka podcast, first ever episode, the unfiltered mental health podcast dedicated to all the things that no one wants to talk about in real life, dedicated to sharing the stories of people like you and me who are struggling but might not have an outlet to share about it. The unfiltered mental health podcast dedicated to the things nobody wants to talk about in real life. That's always a mouthful. I might have to make a shorter tagline. Hey guys, happy 2020. This is another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where we talk about the things that make us uncomfortable. For all you hot messes out there, buy a hot mess where hot messes can find other hot messes and listen to them talk about hot messes and just all be hot messes together. Where one awkward person interviews another awkward person about things that people find awkward. It's just a really beautiful experience. The mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm trying out a new tagline. A mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. The imperfect podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. That is not the original tagline. This one is especially imperfect, where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. And sometimes they just skip 2 weeks of episodes altogether because life is a mess. Where imperfect people talk about imperfect things. Where I just talk about my anxiety unhinged for hours. The mental health podcast where I just forgot it. Hello, fucked up friends and family. Welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people talk about imperfect stuff. This is the fucking imperfect podcast. The mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
This is our second episode together.
So I don't know the whole, start thing yet, except saying my name.
Y'all, did it sound like we practiced? Because we did not. We didn't even know what we were going to say. I think you killed it.
Well, I have the script in front of me. I don't know about you.
I didn't know we had to have a script. That kind of defeats the purpose. Do you want to do the intro?
But you know what you say.
I don't even stick to it half the time. Okay, I can't even remember it most of the time.
I could try and wing it. Hello, all you lovely people out there. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Christina.
This is Pickles and Vodka, where I know that imperfect people have imperfect conversations, though I don't remember what else we do.
Where imperfect people talk about imperfect conversations.
Imperfectly. Hello, friends?
Why is there a question mark?
I don't know. I haven't been here long. We're friends, right?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. This is an episode. Why am I saying it like this?
Just so you know, kids, this is an episode of a podcast.
This is either an episode or we're having an episode. The mental health podcast where two imperfect people talk about a lot of imperfect shit.
Did I miss something?
I said it wrong. Where imperfect people talk about... oh my god, no! Can you do it?
Imperfect people talk about imperfect conversations. Shit.
Is this a sign that we need to redo our intro?
No, this is the perfect intro.
It's too complicated, Lauren. I thought I could have a consistent intro, and I don't think...
I know.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. How about that?
That we do. Let's get weird.
Let's get fucking weird, because it's the 100th episode.
Yes.
Hello, friends, and
hello.
Welcome to the 100th episode of Pickles and Vodka. I can't believe it. I honestly didn't think it would get this far, and I didn't think I would end up here 4 years later with my lovely co-host, and I didn't expect to have the community that we have, I think.
I bowed when you said lovely co-host, but that doesn't translate to podcast.
I was like, wow, she's being really quiet over there. Yes. Lauren is one of the reasons that the podcast has reached 100 episodes. Honestly, I was getting ready to quit before you came on, low key. Not to start the podcast out on a bummer. It's just a fact. Like, I've always been honest about what I'm going through, and like, if the podcast is struggling, I talked about it. And I don't know, Lauren came in right the perfect moment and saved the day. And now I'm really excited about the future.
I know. I feel so impressed that I've already done 10 episodes. I'm like, I haven't been on that long, and I've been here for 10% of the podcast.
Dude, yeah. I was listening to like old episodes in preparation for this, and I thought it was really fitting that you started on episode 90. So now this is not only our 100th episode as a podcast, it's your 10th episode.
It's my 10th anniversary.
As a co-host. It's your 11th episode total. What a wild ride, dude. I don't even know where to begin.
Right?
So, if you're a new listener, this is going to be a very fluffy episode because we have a lot to celebrate. And if we can't just talk about ourselves and our accomplishments for one episode out of 100, I don't know what the point even is.
When I was young, fluffy meant fart.
Oh, God.
You said you let a fluffy.
Let a fluffy? I don't like that one bit.
I don't either. I'm glad I'm not forced to say that anymore.
And now here it is on the 100th episode. I'm not going to cut it out. You know what?
I hope not. Everyone should know that terrible phrase and never use it.
So if you're new here and you're wondering what kind of podcast is this?
We talk about more than farts.
We also talk about poop and vomit.
Right. Sometimes.
No, so Pickles and Vodka is a mental health podcast overall, but it's not a self-help podcast. Very clear on that.
We can barely help ourselves.
We can barely help ourselves. It's, I don't know, it's part documentary, I feel like.
I can see that. Yeah.
Because I started it by myself. Oh, by the way, I'm Christina.
Yeah, and I'm Lauren.
Yes, I'm Christina, and I started this podcast in November 2018 by myself, just as a platform to talk about my struggles because I was going through a lot of shit at the time and I hadn't really talked about it openly in the past and I was just tired of hiding it. And I thought, you know, it would be cool if I met other people who felt similarly. Maybe I could have a few friends on and they could talk to me about it. But that was it. It was mostly just me documenting my life and asking questions, and sometimes a few people would answer, and it was fun. And then the time that I started it was really significant because I was about to move across the country by myself. And
yes, I actually listened to half of your first episode recently because I was curious how it started.
Oh my God. So we will get into stats in a little bit, but that episode is the second most played episode. And that absolutely mortifies me for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had never recorded anything before or edited audio or anything. I just started it, and then 4 years later, here we are at 100 episodes. The podcast has changed so much, and so much of it in the past has been about my journey, which is why I feel kind of sentimental listening to like all the voicemails we got and like playing back old episodes.
When I was first on it, that's what I felt like the general like setup for it was. You mostly interviewed guests, but then I was on it and then I started paying more attention. I'd listen to some and, you know, I saw like, oh no, she does a lot of just kind of like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's up with me.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's really a combo. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a combo, and it has morphed and changed a lot throughout the years. And that's what makes it such a weird podcast, I think, is because I have had to take a lot of breaks for my mental health. Like I was hospitalized twice, and you know, I got sober and relapsed and all this stuff while I was making the podcast. So like I took a few months off here and there. That's why 4 years later we're at episode 100.
Right.
But yeah, I have interviewed a shit ton of guests, all of which I just have so much gratitude for. Obviously, you are one of them. So many people I can't even name have helped make this podcast.
I've listened to a few others of people that I also know, which is, very cool.
Oh my God. So we didn't really prepare much for this episode. I wish that we had the foresight to ask some previous guests to like come back or at least like message them and ask for clips.
We'll do it in episode 200.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, a lot of people, like this podcast might have started out about me, but it ended up being about all of you. Like,
definitely.
I have never felt less alone. And when I started the podcast, I felt more alone than I ever had. And so a lot of this 100th episode extravaganza, I feel like, is going to be a lot of Christina-centric. I feel like, just because it has been a lot of my own personal journey. But like I said, I would not be here without you, Lauren.
And I mean, I can say, just to put in my side, that I had felt the same way, I think, about... I have wanted to start a podcast for a couple of years. I have loved the idea, and that's part of why I jumped right on it when you were like, co-host?
Yeah, you were ready.
Yes. I mean, I had put things out to friends before saying, like, how do I find some person to talk about random shit and make a podcast with me? Like, where do I advertise for that? I feel like I felt a lot like you did. Our main reason why I wanted to, I was just kind of like, I just kind of want a place to maybe sometimes talk about my shit, but it felt to me like I wouldn't start my own just for that, especially as the years goes on, everyone has a podcast.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
more and more and more. And I just felt like, why? I don't know why I would do that, because there's nothing special about that. Who would just listen to my shit? I mean, I could just like make videos on my phone for myself if I just want to talk.
I mean, that's one of the things I'm trying to combat with the podcast, is that everyone's shit is worth talking about. Like, no matter how many people are talking about their shit, I still want to hear about your shit, you know? Not a shit podcast. Anyway, sorry. So you wanted to start one, but, like, you didn't know where to start.
I would try to get people to come with me, because I did feel also, who wants to just listen to me bitch about my life? But also I felt like the dynamic with a co-host, I just feel like goes so much better.
Let me tell you, podcasting feels way more natural with a co-host when it's just you sitting in front of a microphone. And I'm not just one of those people who records myself talking and then plays it without editing. Like, I edit the shit. It's just not, it's not healthy. It's not healthy to listen to yourself talk that much. It's so much easier with you. We have really good chemistry. I have heard a lot of good things, some of which we will hear in these voicemails we're about to play. Just super fucking grateful.
I am too, just that I am able to do this, which I've wanted to for so long.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to more about our stories personally, you can listen to the last 10 episodes or whatever. We're going to be talking a lot about, well, you guys. Honestly, like... We're going to be playing some voicemails that you all sent in. I heard that Lauren has a listener question for me.
I do.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about our goals for the podcast in the future and what the average episode is going to look like as we move forward together.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't really have a plan. I'm nervous. I don't know if you can tell.
I'm surprisingly not.
Good.
It could be because I am debuting. I finally got frustrated with the disposable vapes never having the flavor I wanted. So I'm trying an actual one again.
I was vaping when you said that.
I made you joke.
I thought when you said debuting, in my mind, I was like, she sounds really crisp. Did she get a new microphone? And then you said vape, and I blew out a cloud of vape as you said that because I was laughing so hard.
Maybe that's why I sound crisp. It's so much higher quality.
Again, why are we not sponsored by vape?
Exactly.
Vapes again, Incorporated. Listen.
I ordered this from Perfect Vape. Sponsor us.
Perfect Vape. The vape for the imperfect people with imperfect podcasts. Dude.
It goes so well. Why aren't they sponsoring us?
100 episodes in, and we have not had a single sponsor. But I don't like ads.
Yeah, you weren't really...
Fuck ads. Unless they make me money.
I'm okay with it, I think, on podcasts, because I feel like if you don't like them, it's really, really easy to go past them as a listener.
Yeah.
Like, forward 15 seconds, 15. Oh, they're still talking 15. Oh, hey, podcast is on.
Speaking of listeners, Lauren, are you ready to listen to some listener voicemails?
You bet I am.
So if you go to Trello, I have dropped links to every single voicemail, but they're not arranged in any particular order, and so you get to pick the order that we play them in. And they're going to start some emotional conversations, let me tell you.
Okay.
So no pressure, but you're kind of dictating the way the conversation is going to go. The episode. You're dictating the way the episode is going to go. You hold the power.
So do I get to pick the entire lineup?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because I already have a first and a second choice.
Okay, good.
Number 1 voicemail, I would like Orion voicemail because I know we heard a great one before.
Yes, Orion is a friend of the pod. Also, before we play it, I just want to say I did listen to these already while I was editing them, but I haven't listened to them again. Yeah. I've listened to them as little as possible in preparation for this.
What she's saying is she listened to them, but she really tried not to pay any attention.
I tried not to pay attention, but I did get very emotional a few times already, so this is going to be
okay, so we know what's going to happen. Okay.
Congratulations on 100 amazing episodes and all of the effort you've put into each and every one of them. I can't believe it's been over a year since I started listening to Pickles and Vodka. I think I originally found it when you guested it on the Binge Breakers podcast with Jacqueline Davis. Because you two have, like, the only mental health eating disorder podcast that don't make me want to roll my eyes into the back of my head and
love this.
Don't have that cringy post-treatment recovery language that I could not listen to anymore. But yeah, you hit different. I think I kept listening to episodes because it was so novel to hear someone saying the things that I would never share about myself, even though they are true. Yeah, to hear someone else like relating to that and being honest kind of started this cycle of honesty for me and for the people I know. Like, the more I shared with the world, the more people shared with me, and like when I'm genuinely vulnerable with people, it takes down people's defenses and lets us have like these really meaningful interactions. And I started doing that like more intentionally. Just hearing your experiences with being a struggling human, like suddenly also being a struggling human isn't so terrifying when you think about having to live one more day as yourself, knowing that other people are also doing the same thing and dealing with the same things and surviving. Because that other person with the behaviors and the compulsions and the intrusive thoughts and the fears, that person's also you. There's so much of you that sounds like me. Homeschool Kids Unite. You could have been my older sister, which would have been awesome, actually. I have 2 older sisters and 3 younger siblings, so big families, you know.
Hey, you could always use one more.
I digress. Your investigation around your behaviors, like your introspection, has really helped me think about my feelings and questioning my thought and behavior patterns in a really helpful way. I found a lot of the diary entry episodes to be really inspirational, especially in stopping like avoiding thoughts and to go into them and to investigate them. And seeing the work that you've put in for yourself and your own growth with such tremendous effort these past few years has been really encouraging to me in very crucial moments. And it makes me proud and reflective of my own growth and independence.
I'm proud of you.
Taking control of my own narrative and mental health, especially. Ultimately, like, we all need to feel less alone in everything, in our joys, in our struggles. And hot take, isolation is a killer of joy. And you have created something that's giving people a profound connection. Whether you know it or not, I'm sure that you feel less isolated when you do this work. And you should be proud of yourselves for everything that you put out into the world, you know, in good faith. And to know that pain is less lessened when it is shared. And I feel that my pain and my struggles are shared when I hear you speak about it. So I hope that is some kind of gift I can give you in return for the gifts that you've given us through this and will continue to, I'm sure. Or not. I mean, you can stop whenever you want, but you've done enough. But we all hope for more. So keep making this podcast forever. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Forever. That's fine.
Thank you so fucking much. Oh my God. There's so many. Well, first of all, I have a plan to incorporate more journal entry style episodes, or at least segments.
I was thinking when that was said, because, you know, I told you I found a bunch of my old my journal from fucking junior high.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't wait to get in on this action.
So I'm putting a pin in that. We'll talk about it later when we talk about the podcast moving forward. But, oh my God, Orion. Okay, so this was possibly the most validating message I've ever gotten.
I can tell.
Because that's the whole point of the podcast for me, is just to feel less alone and to help others feel less alone, and to get out all my own struggles like out in the open, and also to make others feel like they can do the same. Like, that's it. All I want to do is start a conversation and help others start a conversation imperfectly. I
have to say that I so appreciated like the first half of it, because the whole thing, of course, but I felt like, you know, as it went on, it was more like somebody that's obviously been listening to you do this. And in the beginning, you know, I just feel so new. So just even to be noticed that it was just like, you two talk like this. And I was like, oh,
dude, like I'm telling you, like you fit in really well here, and you bring something so special to the podcast. And I feel like we're making a difference, and it is so nice to show up.
At that point, I know I could really agree too, because then he was talking about things like how people are just kind of like, they come back and they're like, go recovery, everything's positive. Yeah. And I'd be like, hell no.
Like, yes, we have been to treatment. Yes, we have been in therapy. Yes, we're on meds. Like, we don't know what we're talking about. We're not happy most of the time.
I don't even know where I am with this stuff half the time. I mean, I know I'm not someone, you know, that's like a 16-year-old that's like, Anna's my best friend. Like, I'm going to be skinny for prom.
We are fucked up people.
But I'm still not, I'm still not sure. Like, do I even want recovery? I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that later for sure, like our own stances on recovery. But I just fucking love that we're making a difference, and I'm so proud of you, Orion, for starting those conversations and having those meaningful interactions. Like, that is all I ever wanted from this podcast. And if we can do more of that moving forward, I'll be happy. Sponsored by Vapes or not.
Perfect Vape.
Perfect Vape, that's it.
Also, I just have to put as a funny thing, when he started to say about the podcast, he was like, I originally found it, and I think he said like at such and such time, but I really, like at that pause, I thought he was just to be like, I originally found it annoying. Or something like that.
I mean, I feel like the opposite is true. I feel like some people started it and they liked it, and now they find it annoying. Not because of you, just because it's gone off the rails, but in the best possible way. That episode that he was referring to was published last July. So July 2021, I was on the podcast of a bulimia coach that I absolutely adore, Jacqueline Davis.
I remember you talking about some things you were guesting on.
Which,
that sounded cool.
Also, thank you for telling us how you found the podcast, Orion, because I have no idea where y'all come from, honestly, and it bothers me, and I would like to know. I
just assume they're all your friends, because I just came in and don't know.
Well, I kind of assumed that Orion was someone from Peach.
Oh, okay.
Peach is it's
kind of like a social media graveyard where some of us still talk.
Yeah, we just a bunch of people with eating disorders from Reddit. A lot of the OG podcast guests and listeners are from Peach. And so, Orion, I thought you were from Peach. What the hell, man? No, but seriously, I think it's even cooler though that he found us like naturally, like in the wild.
That impresses me.
We need to guest on more podcasts.
You're like a honey badger.
I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, Binge Breakers, that's the name of the podcast. If you're struggling with bulimia, obviously there's a lot of episodes on this podcast about bulimia, but for a completely like bulimia recovery centered podcast, Binge Breakers is amazing. Are you ready to play another voicemail?
I am, and I've made my decision.
All right, which one are we going to play?
Andrew and Abby, because alliteration.
So Andrew and Abby. Andrew is my younger brother by 18 months, and Abby is his wife. Not only are they two of my favorite people, but they have each been guests on Pickles and Vodka separately.
Oh, cool.
And I will never stop giving Andrew shit for not listening to the episode his wife was on. Yeah, when I had my episode with him, I called him out on it on air, and it was very funny. Anyway, all right. I'm pulling it up now.
Hey, dude. This is Andrew.
And Abby.
And this is why we like Pickles and Vodka.
I love Pickles and Vodka because I get to feel like I'm catching up with you on your weekly updates or episode updates because we're so far away, and I feel like I can know what you're up to, but also talking about mental health. I feel like I'm not alone in the world, and I love hearing about the cats and the dogs. It makes me feel so good inside knowing that the kitties and the doggies are well taken care of and they're having fun adventures. Yeah.
I like it because it's fucking awesome, and also because you have really cool guests, and you give a lot of people a voice that otherwise might not have a voice, and you can reach a lot of people that way. And yeah, we're tired as fuck, so goodbye.
Bye.
Fair enough.
So he didn't mention it in this voicemail, but he is a huge fan of you. When he heard episode 90, the first episode that you were on as my co-host, he was initially skeptical, but then by the end he was like, I want them to both be my moms. It was less weird when he said it. But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, dudes. I fucking love both of y'all. And we do plan on making more episodes about
Of course,
pets.
yes. Yeah, actually, I found it a little bit ironic, not like Alanis Morissette song ironic, but really, that when she was saying something like, I want to hear more about your pets and whatever crazy things they're doing, Meatball was trying to jump on the bed to get at Pico, but also Meatball is still a little bit kitten, so when he tries to jump on the bed, sometimes he kind of misjudges and derfs.
Oh, that's so cute when they do that.
It was really adorable.
But yeah, go listen to our pet episode 93.
Okay, good. You
Great
remember
one.
Numbers. I didn't.
I looked it up while you were talking about football. I'm full disclosure. Also, any voicemails that were left by previous guests, I will link those episodes in the show notes because I cannot remember the episodes off the top of my head, so I'm not even going to try.
Fair enough.
All right, pick another one.
Okay, the next one is Kristen, because my sister spelled Kristen with an E, and so Kristen spells hers with an E.
Perfect. Okay, I have stories about this bitch, but I'm going to wait until after we play the voicemail to tell you how I know her.
Okay.
Congrats, bitch. I just wanted to send a voicemail per your post. Yeah, congratulations. This is a really big deal. You were doing this even throughout like some of your hardest times in treatment, and I was there to see it. And I just think it's really great. Like 100, like that's gotta be like, I don't know, 10,000 hours. I have no idea. Anyway, it's a lot of effort and a lot of continued sustained effort. And if you can do that, you can definitely do so many other things. So I just want to say how impressive it is. I'm still waiting for my invite to be on the podcast. I can talk about all of the dirty laundry of eating disorder treatment. Just kidding. You probably don't want to rehash that. I don't know what I'd talk about. I'm probably not the best guest. Love you.
I didn't realize how many of these were sent directly to me, and so they're addressed to me. So yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
This is a girl that I met in treatment. If you haven't gathered, the most recent
Yeah, I
time.
kind of guessed.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was kind of like Angelina Jolie's character in Girl Interrupted, but like less of a sociopath.
I mean, we determined Angelina Jolie wasn't exactly a sociopath, but I could kind of see for her character, not for this person. I don't know you. I'm sorry, Kristen. I didn't mean to call you a sociopath.
thefuckingbomb.com. I met her in Outpatient. We both lived in Seattle, and the treatment center was in Bellevue, which is like 30 minutes away. And so she started giving me rides. She would pick me up from my apartment in Seattle. We would drive to treatment every single morning, 7 days a week. and we would just bitch about all of the staff and like other patients and like blast stupid music. And the thing I remember most about Kristen is her road rage, like the worst road rage of anyone I've ever met. Like fucking fearless. Sometimes I would be legit scared for my life when I was driving with her. If something wasn't right, like if we had a beef with the staff, she would always be the one to vocalize that. She was very outspoken. Like one time, just out of spite, she wore a onesie to the program. I don't even remember what the context was, but the staff was kind of pissed. Anyway, I love you to death, Kristen. Thank you so much for sending in that voicemail. And we are never tired of talking about treatment on this podcast.
Yeah. Also, I am sorry that they had a problem with you wearing a onesie to group, because I went to treatment and we specifically created a onesie day where everybody wore one.
Yeah, see, you guys would be BFFs. So, yeah, Kristen, your invite is pending. A helicopter just flew over when I was saying that.
If the problem is that you haven't been invited to be a guest, now we are twice as excited because that means I get to be part of when you're interviewed.
Yes, and that's another thing we have to talk about in this episode is like guests.
We haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get through these amazing voicemails. Pick another one.
So my next one is Shannon, because she spells her name differently.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm currently sitting naked on my floor after a good shower cry.
Why not?
Which seems oddly fitting for this fucked up podcast. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean any harm by that. I would not like this podcast if it weren't fucked up. I appreciate the work you guys are doing. You're both helping me to, feel comfortable with my own weakness as somebody that was raised to be particularly kind of, stereotypically masculine for a woman. And tough and, all that bullshit. There's a lot of pressure on me and shame within myself to not be vulnerable. And you guys have some really fucked up conversations that make me feel like that shit's okay. So congratulations on 100 episodes, and here's to 100 more. Clink.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yay.
We love you. Shannon is another person that I would like to be a guest on the podcast.
I can tell already. I mean, that was a short voicemail, and I was like, I want to hear more from you.
Yeah, you guys would get along amazingly. You guys would probably just talk about...
She really just had me from sitting naked on the floor after a good cry. Yep.
Yeah,
we can be friends.
You could also bond about how old you both are.
Oh, great. Yes. Another old crone like me. Yes.
Well, no, she's only 4 years older than me, but she always talks about how old she is, so... But yeah, thank you. I am proud to be a fucked up podcast. I wanted to talk about the vulnerability of it all. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's kind of humbling that people always tell me and us that this is a podcast where they feel encouraged to be vulnerable. But I feel like I'm not vulnerable enough on here. Like, I never have.
This is segueing in so good. I didn't know where I would put it, and I did kind of think I should in the voicemails, because they are a lot, because Christina's been doing this way more than me, so I understand they're referring more to her, but I did actually get one of my friends who is quickly becoming a fan, has listened to many since I started telling her about it.
What's her name?
Her name is Vicky.
Vicky! Hi, Vicky!
So she wanted to ask you, because she said, she noticed that we talk a lot about just kind of like, we're always going to be transparent, no regrets about stuff like that, and just laying it all out there. And, with how long you've been doing this, and she felt doing that successfully, she was asked, have you ever regretted being so transparent all the time? And she mentioned that pulled into our regret episode, which tells you, yes, she's becoming a fan. She can start naming episodes.
Oh my god. Oh, first of all, thank you for listening, Vicky. Anyone who's listening right now, honestly, yes, that means you. This episode is for you. Like, congrats to you yours. Too, because if you didn't listen, we wouldn't have made it to 100 episodes. So congrats, listeners. We love you so much.
Yay!
But back to Vicky's question. Do I regret being so open? Is that what she asked?
Yeah, basically saying, I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm going to be vulnerable. Have you ever done that and then regretted it?
Oh, totally. Every time I hit publish, I immediately regret it. I don't know. I have had legitimate fears over the years of for instance, employers listening to this or people I'm interested in romantically listening to me crying, suicidal. Like, I don't... It's a lot, but it's out there. And it's really taught me a lot about just learning to be myself and not apologizing for it. And if people have a problem with it, like I have had friendships. I mean,
talked about
I've
one.
talked about, I talked about it on the regret episode.
Exactly.
There was one really important friend to me who like kind of got uncomfortable with the direction the podcast was going in because it was really dark for a while. I mean, I was basically drinking alcoholically to black out every day. Like when I started the podcast and like I'm drunk in a few of the earlier episodes. Like it's truly wild how much I've changed through it all. And I haven't, like for the most part, I have not regretted being honest. In fact, I think all the episodes that I thought I was spilling my soul, I'll listen back and I'll be like, you could have been more detailed. Like you could have been more vulnerable. I noticed like with us, with our co-host relationship, like we have really amazing chemistry and like all the jokes and stuff are just perfection. But sometimes I wonder if, like, when I'm talking to another person, I try to make it too funny.
I've thought of some things like, I mean, we talked about me going to the psych ward, which I felt like was a pretty
Like, there was
episode.
that.
But yeah, I do feel, like sometimes we kind of land on conversations that get real, but yeah, it's only like 5 minutes and then we move on.
Yeah, and...
So yeah, I've thought of that being like a future episode.
Totally. And we, in the end, like, this is entertainment, right? Like, we don't have to be exactly who we are in real life on this podcast all the time. I don't know. Or rather, like, there's some stuff that I'm never going to talk about on the podcast because that's just private. And, like, I have a private life apart from this podcast. I'll talk about more than you probably ever wanted to know, but there's limits. I don't know if that answered the question.
I think you did. I mean, I think we went on our famous tangents.
What about you, though?
I think
like,
you started.
This podcast is, like, just as much you as it is me now. Like, how do you feel about being vulnerable on here? And, like, do you feel like you have your limits?
That's true. I mean, I mostly have felt like more allowed to be because I am not the same. I've told no one in my family.
Yeah.
And obviously no one at work because I kind of decided immediately with my work situation it would be a bad idea on top of not wanting to.
Yeah, we have an episode about employee relations as well. Damn, we've covered a lot of topics since you came on.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. We already hit that. But at the same, I mean, I have told a lot of friends, and I know I made like a post on Facebook, even though I like remember Facebook about once a week. But
I deleted it from my phone this week. It's been great.
Yeah, so I did make a post on there. Partially, I think I maybe made a couple. Like the first one because I was like really excited about it, and like maybe another one a little later because I just like maybe I'll drum up some more listeners.
Yes.
But I would do that, and it wouldn't be until a week or two later, and I'd be like, should I have maybe filtered that group a little more? Did I want all those people to listen?
Nah, let it out for the world to see. Right. No repercussions whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I've only gotten positive messages from my friends. So either that means all my friends feel positively about it, or the ones that don't are just staying quiet and seething to themselves.
That's the thing. I don't really think about those people. I don't know if those people even exist, but like, also I thought it was funny that Vicky used the word successful because what does that even mean? I don't know. It's not a huge podcast. I don't know if it ever will be. If it never does, that's totally fine by me. But if we do get more listeners, we probably will get like people who disagree what we have to say and who might be vocal about it. And that scares me too.
I know. I keep bugging everybody to leave reviews, and eventually someone's going to leave like a 1-star review, and I'm going to be like, wait, stop.
Oh, but then we can read the 1-star review.
Reviews. You made me cry.
Maybe we can have a terrible review segment at one point. If we become big enough to have a terrible review segment.
Oh, yes. If we become like huge and famous and get sponsored by PerfectVape.com.
Watch my next like cover art just have the Perfect Vape logo in the corner. Like, dude, I could get in serious legal trouble for that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Let's play another voicemail because I don't remember what we were talking about.
No, we got on a tangent. So, next one. I didn't actually know Andrew and Abby would be relatives, but now let's do Carolyn and Ginger because I know they are, and I wanted to break up the relations a bit.
A lot of my family members sent in voicemails. Actually, these might be the only ones. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But that's a lot. 4 people.
Good. I was trying to break it up, and I was hoping I wouldn't get surprised again later. Like, oh, by the way, that's my sister. Okay, I'm ready.
Hello, this is the amazing Ginger Lou, otherwise known as the Queen, but most importantly known as the mother of the host of Pickles and Vodka.
One of the
hosts, Ginger Lou here. So I just wanted to say congratulations. I'm here to commemorate the centennial episode of Pickles and Vodka. It's so wonderful to celebrate with you both. And I just love and enjoy each and every episode. I love the questions that are asked. I love the guests that are interviewed. And I do love Christina, of course, my firstborn. But I am unbiased, of course. But I really do respect the quality of the podcast. I love Lauren. I love Lauren's contributions as co-host now. And I just want to give a quick tribute to say that this podcast really filled a needed void in the area of mental health podcasts. And I could not be happier to celebrate this centennial episode. So keep up the great work, ladies.
Hell yeah, Christina. This is such a momentous occasion. I can't believe you reached 100. I mean, I can because I knew you'd succeed. But I was just thinking I honestly think a lot about where you started and where you are now, especially when it comes to the podcast, because that's a good marker. And it's just really crazy how much you've grown. Like, we all had hope in you, and we knew what a strong person you were, but this is even better than we could have ever imagined. Like, just all the ways you've grown and healed, and even if you're not where you want to be yet, none of us are, because I know that's what you'll say.
Work in progress.
Lauren, you're freaking amazing. I need to listen to more episodes, and you've turned this non-podcast person into someone who enjoys it very, very much. So you guys are just freaking awesome. You're doing something big for the world. Like, this is your contribution that might really change people's lives more than you realize. But y'all are rocking our socks off.
Woo! Bye-bye.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for the podcast.
We should give them some applause.
Yes.
Because Ginger Lou and that was my sister Caroline, they have been...
I am so sorry I said Carolyn. I had a friend all of junior high and high school who spelled her name like that, but pronounced it Carolyn.
Oh, it's fine. People call her Caroline all the time. But they have each been guests on not one, not two. I don't even remember. They've been guests multiple times. The podcast would not be the same without them. They've supported me from the beginning. They love you, Lauren, obviously. And they will doubtless appear in future episodes. And this voicemail was cute as fuck.
No, yeah, it was amazing, and I loved it. I think you're both awesome, and I can't wait to hear you in person.
You might get to meet one or both of them in St. Louis.
That's true, because we're actually secretly sisters.
Yes.
we're related, and we never do it.
Yeah, there's a whole Pickles and Vodka
that came up a couple times.
Running joke that Lauren and I are might be related because we both have relatives in St. Louis. And so my family reunion is happening there this Christmas, and so I'm going to go there, and Lauren and I are going to meet up in person, and we're going to do an episode live. I almost dressed up for this. But then I was like, what's the fucking point? But then I was like, we can dress up for the Hot and Spicy Pickle Awards.
Exactly. Oh, good, because that's what I was thinking. When we do an episode together, then I was like, we need to video that one.
Oh, we will. So
Okay.
for new listeners, we might as well just go off on multiple tangents, because that's just who we are.
Exactly.
The Hot and Spicy Pickle Awards are something that I started after celebrating my 1-year anniversary with the podcast. Basically, anyone who has been a guest in that year gets a custom award. Like, kind of like the Dundies, if you're a fan of The Office. Yeah, yes. I just make up awards just as a way to show appreciation for all the guests that year. And every year I've gotten more and more extra with it. Like this past year, I wore a sequin dress and I posted it.
It was
on
lovely.
YouTube.
I watched it.
Oh,
Yep.
you watched it? You got an award.
I did. Yes,
Yeah, you were a guest
but
in
I also
2021.
thought you looked hot, so I was like, oh.
I mean, I kind of did. That's not how I look right now, but y'all can't see that. So suck it.
Also, I love to just have amazing thoughts in the middle of recording and announce them.
Oh, yeah. We love that.
Because you do the Hot and Spicy Pickle Awards, but as we've said, I haven't had a guest episode yet.
Not yet.
So, I mean, I probably wouldn't have too many. So if you do the Hot and Spicy Pickle Awards for guests, I will do the Bread and Butter Pickle Awards for terrible points of our solo podcast.
Okay, we need to... I have so many questions that are going to have to wait.
I haven't fleshed it out yet, but I'm like, I'm going to give the Bread and Butter Pickle Award, and it's going to be for terrible things.
Is it going to be like almost like a blooper reel or like...
Yeah, like maybe I'll give one to Dr. Ted Theodore Logan.
Oh, you mean, okay, like villains or like...
Yeah, I'm going to hit up the non-guest ones because that's mostly what I'll have done at that point.
Okay, I like this idea. That's perfect because, we haven't had that many guests this year.
Right.
Because I got burnt out, which is why Lauren had to save the podcast. I started doing a lot of solo episodes, and then I had some guests lined up, but I canceled because,
Yeah, and then we took some time to just get our vibes. So
we will have guests back on eventually.
Yes.
We have some lined up. In fact, we're just figuring out the technical side of it, and I'm having fun in the meantime.
Me too.
Okay, another voicemail.
Okay, there's only 2 left.
Yeah, we have 2 left.
I'm going to say Bianca because the other one is a 2-person, and I just want to end it on that.
Perfect.
Okay. I had to give a reason for each one.
I love it. That's how I am, too.
And you were all picked specifically.
That's why I wanted you to pick them, because I knew you would have a reason for each one, and I wanted to see what they were.
Aw.
Hey, y'all. It's Bianca.
Hi, Bianca.
Where are you from, y'all?
Yeah. What the podcast has meant to me over the past 4 years. I've kind of listened on and off, but I just think it's such a cool thing that Teeny started. Like, I remember when I first met her, I was like, she's so cool. And I looked up to her, and I still do. And yeah, just the fact that, she kind of took this uncomfortable topic and world that we live in and made it into a thing where people feel less alone, I think is really special. Because I struggle with mental health, so it's like, just hearing all the stories is like, I'm not alone, and other people are weird too, and that's just how life is. So yeah, it's been great.
Thank you, Bianca.
I know.
So
it was short but sweet. I loved it. It just focused on everything.
Yeah. So I met Bianca in Texas, hence the y'all. We worked at Starbucks in Austin together. Okay. And Teeny was my nickname at that store because they already had another Christina when I got hired.
I loved that, not just because it made me giggle at the idea of calling you Teeny, but also because I have another friend named Christina, and she's also worked with kids, so her nickname is Nini, because that's what little kids can say.
Teeny and Nini.
Yeah, it's just Christina, really they're like Nini. So, I love that.
Yeah, Bianca has also been a guest before, twice.
Oh, I'll have to check those out.
But yeah, thank you, Bianca.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more to play before we round out this puppy.
The last one is Steph and Lex, and just pulling it up. Hope it loads the first time. Okay, I'm ready.
Hi, this is Steph and Lex from Chasing Childhood Podcast. Christina and Lauren, we are so excited for both of you. This is such a momentous celebration, such a great thing.
Yeah, we're so excited for you guys. Congratulations.
Seriously.
100 episodes. That's really impressive. And it's not easy to get to 100 episodes on a podcast.
Congratulations, guys. We just wanted to reflect a little bit on how we met Christina, because Lauren, we haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, but we look forward to hopefully collaborating with you in the future as well.
Yes, definitely.
Christina and Pickles and Vodka was actually the first podcast to follow us on social media, and that's kind of how we met. And then we ended up collaborating together on our Sky High episode and on Christina's channel as well. And it was just right off the bat, such an amazing individual, such a down-to-earth person. We all vibed immediately.
Yeah, absolute, like, immediate friendship. Like, just felt like we had known each other for years. Like, we had always been friends. And yeah, it was an immediate click. And I think that is a huge testament to Christina's warm personality and her empathy and ability to listen, which I think are really important for especially the podcast that you both run now. You know, the ability to bring people on and hear their stories and communicate with them. I think you both are incredibly talented, and we're just so proud of you guys.
Yes, we are so proud of you, and we look forward to spending more time with you guys in the future. Hopefully, again, we can collaborate, and we look forward to meeting Lauren, because I'm obsessed with your episodes already.
Oh. Yes, absolutely.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, are they not the sweetest individuals?
I was like, that is the best one to end on, and also I didn't say very much during it because I was afraid that I would just like overtake their entire voicemail, so I was just like making crazy faces and like rocking around in my chair like, oh my god!
Yeah, dude. So Chasing Childhood is a movie all about... It's a movie, so...
Okay.
Chasing Childhood is a podcast about nostalgic childhood movies.
Yes, because since I'm trying to be a good Twitterer for us, I don't know if I responded to one of their responses or one of their other tweets.
Lauren
or
is reviving
I did something with them.
Lauren is reviving our Twitter in case y'all haven't noticed. Yeah, yes. I never posted to it. Follow us at Pickles Vodka. It's the only username that's different. Pickles Vodka. Anyway, thank you, Steph and Lex. Oh my god.
Yes!
I was crying. Like,
I can see why.
Dude, so sweet. We did an episode on Pickles and Vodka. Well, first of all, when I was on their podcast, we reviewed the movie Sky High, the Disney Channel original movie.
Yeah, they said yours. What I was wondering what theirs was on your podcast.
It was
our podcast.
It was really fun for me to be on a non-mental health podcast and talk about something other than my traumatic shit. So when they were on my podcast, our podcast, I should say.
You made them talk about traumatic shit.
Oh, yeah. We talked about, we tied it into their podcast by talking about childhood trauma and like intergenerational trauma and stuff like that, and the healing power of nostalgia, something that you and I have talked about a lot too.
Yes.
Just amazing people. That is a perfect one to end on. I don't think I could handle like one more.
I couldn't believe there were so many.
I know. Hey. Oh, that's like when my sister was saying, like, we always had such high hopes for you, but we were actually surprised when it actually worked out and you turned out to be happy. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, thank you so much to everyone who sent in a voicemail or a message. This podcast would not be where it is today without y'all, and I can't wait to interact more with you and collaborate more.
And Christina, I felt like kind of warned me. She's like, I'm sorry, it's people that I asked, and they're some of them, and I've been doing it more, so they're kind of more me-centric, and I feel like, no, I feel like so many people just welcomed me in, and I loved it all.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that people talked about like why they love Pickles and Vodka is just starting the conversation. I was listening to the episode that you appeared on first, episode 44, where you talk about going to treatment for the first time in your 30s. And if I remember correctly, you didn't even feel comfortable saying you had an eating disorder until relatively recently, right?
Yeah, around the time, I don't know if I felt comfortable, but I feel like I might have actually been okay to say that about myself once I got to treatment the first time, which at that point you should actually realize okay, maybe this is valid.
But there's a moment at the end of that episode where I asked you if you regret getting help and going to treatment and all that stuff, because you had just talked about the financial repercussions of treatment alone. Yes. We've talked about recovery a lot on this podcast, and this is not a recovery podcast, and I personally am in recovery at this time, but I haven't always been, and you are.
I am questioning. Recovery questioning.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot on the podcast about how we feel about our own recovery and how we are qualified to be co-hosts of this thing. What message are we trying to tell people? What do we want people to come away with from Pickles and Vodka? And you said something, I'm trying to find it, hold on.
I remember that episode, and I remember that I felt like you were trying to, like, end on a positive note. Yeah. I didn't realize it until I, like threw some shit down a couple times to your attempts, and you were just like, oh, she keeps, like, knocking them down and being negative.
I mean, honestly, talking about stuff I've learned making this podcast, there's not always a happy ending, or there's not always a lesson that you learn along the way. Sometimes, if the only thing you accomplish is just telling someone else about it and, like, maybe learning more about yourself, that is valid.
Yeah,
and you
I know
said that.
We did kind of, like, manage to end up on at least, like, halfway positive message, but I do know that I remember, at least in that episode, luckily, I was already keeping up what I feel is currently the aim of the podcast. I was just kind of like, I'm not going to lie. So if you keep asking questions that I can't answer positively, I won't. Like I said, we managed to end on a kind of like halfway one, and I did agree with that, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, you said that, like, even just being able to name what it is you're struggling with and gave you enough insight to, like, even be able to talk about it on a podcast. And you said something at the very end, which is, like, knowing what you're doing is really helpful. Like, you can't fight a battle unless you know what it is you're fighting against. And so going back to all the voicemails that mentioned, like, talking about this stuff, like having meaningful conversations, intentional conversations, like, that's all that I want with this podcast. I don't know about you.
I mean, that was part of what made me happiest, is when people were just like, you're not all sunshine and rainbows and you're not all doom and gloom, but you're just real.
Yeah. So I was going to go over some stats. We don't have a ton of time. Like, this thing is already going on pretty long, but I'm pulling up our podcast Anchor page, and there's a little section for stats. So I think you'd be interested to know.
I would, as the default Lauren rambles about promotions.
Yeah. So we found out some pretty interesting things about you listeners. 73% of you are from the United States.
Oh, that's
5%
higher than I would expect.
5% from Canada, and another 5% from the UK, and then it goes on. Sweden. I don't know if I want to do this.
What I meant is higher than I expect. Actually, was that the foreign ones are higher than I expected. I expected something like 90%.
People don't want to hear about this. This is like, would you want to hear about this?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we didn't stay on that for long. We might cut half of it.
We have #1 platforms that people listen to us on. What do you think is the most popular one? How do you think the most people listen to us?
I mean, everyone goes to Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify is leading 43%. Apple Podcasts is 36%, so suck it, Apple.
That's why you wanted to guess that.
Number 3 was something I've never heard of. Podcast Addict. 4% of people listen to us on Podcast Addict. What is that?
I don't know.
I looked it up. It doesn't look special. And then, I don't know, there's things like they break down like genders, and the 2 top genders that listen to our podcast are female and non-binary. The age that listens to our podcast the most, this is interesting, 28 to 34. The second age group that listens to our podcast the most, what do you think it is? Your choices are 18 to 22, 23 to 27, 35 to 44, or 45 to 59.
45 to 59.
Damn, you're good.
I was either going to go the lowest or the highest because the other ones made sense.
And 1% of our listeners are above 60.
What?
It's all Ginger Lou, probably.
I thought so. Your mom has to be in one of those.
I'm done talking about stats. I don't want to talk about stats anymore.
Okay. We want to talk about the future.
Okay, so the future. More guests. I would love to have more guests. I'd like
to interview a person.
Yeah, Lauren has these untapped interview skills that I am excited to see. I do want to start incorporating like journals into the episodes. I was thinking about like how much I've grown / changed for good and for bad, like since I started making the podcast. And the reason that the podcast has been so healing for me, and I hope that you start feeling this way too, is like just being able to document all the shitty things I've been through and having come out on maybe not the other side, but like another side. And realizing like, wow, things really did get so much better, or like I was about to go through so much worse, and thank God I didn't know it at the time. you know, it's just been so amazing not just to have that record for myself, but just knowing that others are listening and that maybe they're feeling less alone. That's everything that I think we both want out of the podcast. And I think...
Absolutely. I agree.
I want to end with... So, Lauren, is there anything that you would want to say to yourself on episode 150?
Ooh. First of all, I want to share a random story, as we do here. So when I was in college, I feel like you'll appreciate this. I was just kind of like lukewarm about things. Like, you know, sometimes I would agree to go to church with friends that did and stuff because I had grown up religious and I didn't like
we've talked
totally
about that a ton on the podcast.
I was just kind of in the middle, so I was just like, I'm not going to be like burn the churches, I hate them. I was just like, I'll go with you, that's fine. But somehow I got talked into the one that I sometimes attended with a friend. Twice a year they would have a student retreat with all of the students of that college that attended that church, and somehow I got talked into going to this. And
where's this going?
One of the nights they had us write a letter to yourself. They said, we will randomly send this to you.
Oh, like in the future at an unspecified date and time?
Yeah, just saying, you know, like, write this letter, address it to yourself. At some point, we'll send it to you.
I fucking love that. Also, I had no idea where it was going. I was kind of nervous.
Because I was talking all religion and retreats.
Yeah, OG listeners will know I have a lot of religious trauma that I talk about off and on. But
I didn't talk about the weird shit on the retreat. I actually related it to
dude, that is such a cool idea. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this final segment. Because listening...
But just to end that story, though, because here's the thing, and I can't remember if I took possession of this, if I saw it when I was cleaning out my mom's stuff lately, but I know for a fact that at that retreat, it was a time where I was hiding the eating disorder shit from everybody in my life, and I 100% knew it, but I also knew that I was getting really fucked up. I feel like I wrote about that to myself, but it was also at a time where I was still just like, you're pretending like this is something. It's not. You're making a drama out of nothing.
Did you feel like you were being overly dramatic in your letter? Do you have it?
I don't know, because here's the thing. Eventually they sent it to me. I had forgotten that when they sent it to me, I knew what I had been feeling at the time. I have never opened it and read it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, maybe, ooh.
I don't think it's in my mom's storage now because I went through the stuff she was, so maybe it's in my dad's.
Well, now you have to find it and read it on the podcast.
Yeah, and I'm going to be so upset if one of them threw it out.
Oh my God. Well, I'm like on the edge of my seat now. Yeah. I have to hear that letter.
It was, you know, like 19-year-old me or whatever, so it's probably going to sound silly to me, but the fact that I could never open it is like, I need to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff I wrote at that age, I think is kind of silly, but I still read it on the podcast and, like, it still starts conversations at least. Mm-hmm. If anything, like, here's how much I've changed since I wrote that.
Right.
What I would like to tell future Christina on episode 150, I just want to be like, don't be afraid to dream big. Instead of being afraid of disappointment, which I worry about that all the time on this podcast. Like, not only am I self-censoring all the time, but I'm worried about, like, not getting any downloads or only, you know, getting under a certain amount of likes on Instagram. Like, stupid shit. I want to worry about that stuff less. Like, I don't want to be worried about those kind of disappointments. And I think instead we should be asking ourselves, like, what if we end up having a lot of fun and reaching a lot of people? What if it works out? And, like, giving ourselves things to look forward to. Like, I look forward to every Saturday when we sit down and record. It's so nice to have a little routine.
I'm so impressed that we haven't missed a week, and I'm also happy for that because I would be bummed out if we missed a week. I'd be like, it's been too long since I did a podcast.
And if, you know, we're allowed to miss weeks too. Like, that's the amazing thing.
But I'm just happy that
the listeners understand. But also, we're going to be making this forever.
Yes, forever.
But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm putting that out there. And we're going to have a lot of hard shit happen to us in between now and then. But we'll get through it. And hopefully we can document it all.
I mean, hopefully we'll have already told you about all our hard shit in the past, so we'll be ready for it.
Okay, what about you? What would you tell yourself on episode 150?
Yes. I would tell myself the same thing that if I'd been on episode 1, I probably would have said I'd tell myself on episode 100, which is that people do not care about you as much as you think. It's just everybody is worried about themselves first, which makes sense because you are yourself. So I feel like I'm projecting so much of saying, like, why do I think everybody is so worried about everything that I say? If it helps me, I should do it.
Exactly. Like, no one is going to give as much of a shit about you as you. That's what I always say.
Yep.
Like, and this podcast has been great for, like, working on my perfectionism, for sure. And, like, no one gives a shit if we, like, say the wrong thing or, you know, don't say enough or say too much. Like, we're imperfect people. This is an imperfect podcast. We're just having imperfect conversations. And we can't wait to have more.
That was such a perfect... For all the imperfectness, that was such a perfect way to end.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it. So yeah, thank you everyone for 100 episodes. We can't wait to make more, and we'll see you next week.
And when we're at 200, I'll have been here more than I have not. That's counting for you, bitches.
Yeah, she's keeping count. All right, everyone, go follow us. Love you. Bye.
Bye.